Well, about as technical as you could get at this time on a Monday evening, I promise you, nothing too much to worry about. So yes, welcome to Technoquest here in Cardiff, where it's all about getting your hands on with the science behind things. And I've always said that there is a science to the weather, and there you go, you can see me in the screen, because here at Technoquest, it's all about getting involved, getting interactive. And look, there's an elephant joining me for this very forecast. Isn't it fantastic? But that's what it's all about. It's making weather and science and all this sort of stuff accessible to everybody as well. Look, that elephant is really having a lovely time, isn't it? So as far as the weather is concerned, it is a science. It doesn't just happen randomly, and there's an awful lot going on out there at the moment. Let's start by talking about what's happening across the pond, because out in the Atlantic, parts of America are currently being battered by a storm, Storm Kirk. He's a hurricane at the moment, and if we run a sequence through, you can see that Kirk is effectively landfall across parts of Spain and then into France. So whatever you might have heard on the news recently, here in Wales we'll escape the worst of it. However, we do have some weather to get through first. The picture for this week is, so whatever the weather's doing out there, and it actually looks really dark and quite ominous. There's lots going on in here in Technoquest. It's really rather fun. It does bring science to life, and as I said, there's a science behind our weather. It doesn't just happen by accident, you know. John. Well, we have a yellow weather warning which covers much of South Wales at the moment. You can see that yellow area, thunderstorms, slow moving, heavy and persistent. Some hail and some lightning thrown in for good measure, and that weather will work its way northwards during the course of this evening and overnight tonight. There will be some dry spells. It's not going to be a washout everywhere, and under clear skies the temperatures, particularly in more sheltered rural spots, will take something of a drop. We're looking at lows of around 8 or 9 degrees, but thanks also to a gentle breeze, we could also see some rather dense patches of mist and fog by the early hours of tomorrow morning. Now, the good news is the worst of those thunderstorms will have cleared. The warning expires, but there is more wet weather waiting in the wings. It's never that simple, is it? And you can see the blues and greens, more heavy downpours, perhaps not as heavy as the wet weather out there tonight, but still enough to put a little bit of a dampener on your day, working northwards during the course of the afternoon. As ever, though, it won't be a washout altogether. Some areas will escape that wet weather altogether, and there'll be plenty of dry weather and some decent spells of sunshine, which, if you catch, will feel pretty pleasant. We're looking at highs tomorrow of around 16 in Celsius. Spooling through then towards the middle of the week, we've got more low pressure. It is very, very unsettled, and you can see further sunshine and showers. That is the science bit, really, but a mixture of everything. Again, if you catch the sunshine, it'll feel pretty pleasant. But by the time we get towards the end of the week, the wind of change already blowing. That wind comes from a more northerly direction. That means temperatures will start to feel much cooler. Largely dry and settled, some decent spells of sunshine, but we could well see a return to those overnight frosts too. We're going global. Now, you may well have heard there's a storm brewing across the Atlantic. The good news is Kirk, as it's called, should miss us in the UK altogether. But having said that, we're not quite out of the woods altogether. I'll have the full national forecast for you in a couple of minutes. Absolutely, Charlene. Yes, welcome to Technoquest in Cardiff. It's all about science here, getting up close and personal and hands-on, if you like. And the science of our weather is very often that what happens in one part of the world happens and affects us here in the UK. So Hurricane Kirk, or ex-Hurricane Kirk as he now is, has been wreaking havoc across Florida. But if I move this beautiful globe around, it's heading in our direction. It's currently out in the Atlantic. Now, initial thoughts were it would reach us here in the UK. But if we take a slightly more sign and France, so they will bear the brunt of Kirk. However, here in the UK, so Kirk does mean business, but thankfully here in the UK, we will miss out on the worst of it. That being said, it is that time of the year, it's autumn, and the weather always keeps us on our toes, Charlene.
It does indeed, Ruth. Thanks very much.
Well, the general setup for the next few days across the UK is one of sunshine and showers, but thunderstorms, as I mentioned. Storm Kirk could well bring some strong winds towards the end of the week, but a northerly direction means colder air. So in the meantime, the picture here in the UK is mixed, and I mentioned we do have a yellow weather warning which covers much of South Wales and the southwest. Here in Cardiff, for example, we're in the firing line. Slow-moving, potentially disruptive thunderstorms with lightning and even hail thrown in too. Elsewhere, there will be a scattering of showers, but nothing too troublesome, fizzling out largely by the early hours of tomorrow morning. So there will be some dry spells. And actually, as the winds drop out, we could see the return of some rather dense patches of mist and fog through the usual prone spots, hills and valleys by the early hours. Temperature-wise, quite a variation. 8s and 9s will be your low under clear skies, but general lows of around 12 or 13 in Celsius. So for many parts of the UK, it will be quite a gloomy start to tomorrow morning. Now, the wet weather that's hitting the southwest at the moment will largely park itself across parts of northern England and Scotland too, with showers developing either side and across the southwest and southern parts of Wales. Again, these could well be on the heavy side, but it won't be a washout for everyone, because in between the showers there'll be some dry spells and some sunny spells, and if you do catch some sunshine, it should feel pretty pleasant. Highs of up to 18 degrees. But heading through towards the middle and then the end of the week, the temperatures will start to feel just that little bit cooler.